We understand that there is a religious mindset that dislikes same-sex marriage. At no point does the proposition tell you, however, that by permitting same-sex marriage, we are not permitting people to believe that. We have contended that same-sex marriage has no social ill that spreads to the individual who wish to believe that same-sex marriage is wrong other than perhaps discomfort. And we have established that in order for the opposition to make that argument stand, as a reason to reject same-sex marriage rather than just statements about how a reason diverse mindset and majority perceptions are. They would have had to demonstrate that the opinions of those who wish to be married to which gender they wish are less valid. Opposition has argued that there is no absolute way to determine how morally right same-sex marriage is. That also meant that there is no way to determine that is wrong either. So, since this debate isn't about whether or not homosexuality is good or bad, and never has been, what has it truly been about? This debate, first and foremost, has been a debate and a can debate. We have recognized that evidence is applicable where the universe it is applicable not to the unnatural same-sex partner with whom they might choose to make life. Next, the impact of upon those individuals who made it to the level of being secure in their sexual orientation, found someone else who is also secure in it, and are truly in love and want to make life with each other to find that they cannot do so to the extent that normal heterosexual partners can. Lastly, the impact upon this individual who suppose same-sex marriage or homosexuality as a whole, always, there is no tangible effect legalizing same-sex marriage as that. The opposition seems to have forgotten how they wish to frame their arguments. In one breath, they tell us they have a defense of the status quo in their life of argumentation. In another, they attempt to escape each status quo harm identified by the proposition by suggesting that they can establish civil unions to the mechanism by which homosexuals receive the full rights of government. But side opposition decided to evade the most damning arguments we have against the status quo by suggesting we should establish civil unions. We have the same right marriage, which is nearly a concession of the entire side proposition line. The only difference not to call it marriage in itself, which they cannot fundamentally find a reason not to do. Since the only problem with calling it marriage, they can identify it that people who hold religious mindsets against homosexuality will get mad. The opposition provides nothing but logical inconsistency, and their case is rife with tribalizations, both of the plight of homosexual individuals and of the right to marry. Their claims that proposition is deceptively making a human rights issue of same-sex marriage. We have taken a stance as side proposition towards equality, towards inclusion, and towards social harmony by the inclusion of minority groups. Fundamentally, even though we are different as people, we are still equal in regards to the relationship we had with our government. This stance might not be put into action by all world governments immediately, but we hold firmly to the idea that if we advocate for equality, we may actually see it materialize even in unlikely scenarios. It is for these reasons that we beg for the courts. That's all. Thank you.
As for the negative side, let's have
this rebuttal effectively argues that the state must act as pathfinder for society, the leading the way for its citizenry. As proposition has done here, this argument elsewhere is usually justified. For example, suffrage for women, civil rights for non-whites, and voila, all social changes necessarily requires new legal norms as proof users. First, we are talking about different levels of magnitude in respect to the consequences of these rights. The right to determine who governs you, and thereby, again, power to make a range of policy decisions that may affect the fundamental designs and routine of society, and etc. Versus the right to call your same-sex partner husband or wife. Proactive state intervention is often not successful. Proposition cannot claim to have found causality by looking at cases in which the state is governed 50 years later the world in a better place. Even in propositions in own country, for example, there is a proof that the law cannot fulfill these functions of social changes effectively. Long after the passage of civil rights legislation that allowed for formal equality of African Americans, the African Americans continue to experience large-scale social discrimination in both seemingly benign ways, for example, racial profiling, and more violent, explicit ways, differential access to social welfare, as was evident in the wake of Katrina, higher livelihood, and capital punishment. The moral is clear: the law is a very poor instrument of social changes. We think it will make zero difference. The driver of that tension is prejudice against same-sex love, not against same-sex couples being unmarried. Let the battle be won in the first minds of people. Let them come to accept that homosexuals are not like other people, forcing homosexuals into the lives of those who resist same-sex marriage by disregarding incalculated social, cultural, and religious preferences in a surefire way to force the fight of substantive equality one step above. And that's all.
And now the two parties have been discussed their point of views and some research regarding their ideas of the said matter, the same-sex marriage. Same-sex marriage has been a broad topic in our nation today, as well as in our country, Philippines. Same-sex marriage, also known as a gay marriage, is a marriage between people of the same sex, either as a circular, same-sex marriage, and opposite-sex marriage are considered legally equal. In the late 28th century, rights of marriage for same-sex couples without legal recognition for marriage of people of the same sex in the modern times was enacted in 2000 in the Netherlands and came into force in 2001. As of 20 of December 2017, same-sex marriage is legally recognized nationwide or in some parts in the following countries: Argentina, Australia, Belgium, Brazil, Canada, Colombia, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, Iceland, Ireland, Luxembourg, Malta, Mexico, Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, Portugal, South Africa, Spain, Sweden, the United Kingdom, the United States, and Uruguay. It is also likely to soon become legal in Taiwan and Australia. And now, the decision is in us on if we are going to go with the same-sex marriage. So we are the millennials today. We can get the fruit or the consequences of this said matter. So that will be all.
The affirmative side and the negative side have presented their ideas and opinions. I believe based on what we have researched from online and what you have been asking from your friends, your family members, and from your sources and their personal opinions about same-sex marriage. So if on the arguments of both parties, on the affirmative and the negative side, we come to say that, just like what you have said by the moderator, at the end of the day, it's our decision and ourselves who support either the negative or the affirmative side. Looking at the idea of democracy in our country, in the Philippines, the democracy is not about right and wrong, but it's about the majority of the members of the countrymen. Either they're going to vote, it is about vote of popularity. At that same time, the reasons behind this popularity must be based on the morality, at the same time based on legal and experiential reasons. Hopefully, at the end of the day, we as the citizens of this country will be able to understand well the consequences and benefits of same-sex marriage, which is an emerging condition, an emerging issue of our country. So thank you once again for being cooperative.